that, yeah, well, the thing, it took a while to get going, but once it started going, it didn't stop. Um,
No.
we got 7 folks new to the Halifax Wanderers. And for some reason, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, I already said something about Mondway, uh, and there's Amla, who we saw a fair bit of. Uh, he, Escobar. There, another Adisa De Rosario as a goalkeeper in development, very much in development. Nuaja, uh, Dagelman, and Campania.
Yep. A lot of names to remember.
Yep, and it would seem so. Just and let's see. What can you tell? All right, I already Mondway has shown himself immensely, both in the usual way of Wanderers doing things, penalties, but also in creating chances that we didn't used to create before. You may notice a couple of ears right at the bottom of where I'm. A couple of cute little cat ears. It looks like someone clearly wanted to be a part of this. Meow. And let's see. And yeah, well, what can you say about Amla?
Ludwig Ojo Amel, he's a striker from Quebec, actually born in Denmark to Togolese parents, and was in an academy in Denmark called B67, I think, as a youngster, and then came to Quebec, which is where he grew up. Worked his way through various clubs in kind of the Quebec club system. He played at the college or CEGEP level for a college at Huntsic, and he does have 1 year of, or at least he went to Macedonia, North Macedonia in 2021, played for a club there. He only got about 10 games, so I don't think it was a full season, but he does have a bit of pro experience to his name. And then he came back in 2022 and was playing in the PLSQ. Has apparently been on the Wanderers' radar screen for a little while. Down the Pub had a really good interview with him the other day on their podcast, and certainly recommend people checking out that. But in that, he mentioned that a club had been in touch with him as back in March of this year, and then he picked up an injury, so he wasn't available at that time. But he's played out the season in PLSQ, and then obviously he joined the team in training in July, and played it in a game against our under-23s, bagged a couple of goals in that one, and obviously impressed enough to earn himself a contract, not just for this year, but through 2023 and a club option for 2024. So obviously the club feels he's got some upside and some real potential. And kind of like Mondo, I think he brings something different to the front. He's tall.
Hi, I'm here. I'm here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. And he seems to be an aerial threat as well, which is something we kind of been lacking at the front. So yeah I think a good addition.
I had said earlier that we needed somebody that's basically like a Wish.com version of Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So a head meant for balls to deflect off of into the goal.
And that's definitely something we've been missing. We don't have many tall forwards, and Sam Salter was probably our other. He's about the same height, but he's more of a ball and feet kind of guy. He's not an aerial threat.
He's definitely a ball and feet kind of guy. We've seen him do that a lot. Okay. What do you think of Mondway since he's on the list? What do you think of Mondway since he's been here?
Definitely, like you said, he's been fresh air. Like, he's very direct and pacey, which is something we were kind of missing up front. So a different type of forward. Obviously, he's been drawing penalties on a regular basis with his directness, so he's not afraid to go one-on-one with a defender and make them second guess themselves, which is something else we were missing before. So he's been a great addition up front, and he's drawn lots of penalties so far. Hasn't got to take one yet. Certainly hope we see him score a goal soon.
I'd love to see him score a goal in open play, just so he can cut through the banter. Basically, like, I'm only good for penalties, eh? It's 1-0 Wanderers, and then who knows? Maybe I'll have made that chant from that based on that Guilty Gear song a thing. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Run down on that wing, Foompa my way. All right. Now
he's definitely. I think he's going to warrant his own song when all's said and done.
All right. Now let's go down to somebody by the name of Escobar, who plans to be even more dangerous than Pablo in our squad.
Yeah.
Gabby Gabbo Gabriel Escobar.
Yeah, so Gabriel is born in El Salvador, actually, but grew up in Canada. He Canada U17 and El Salvador U20. He's a product of the Whitecaps Academy system, so he spent a number of years in their system, and then most recently he was with TSS Rovers in League One BC for their inaugural season, and they actually won the title. So he won a title with them. He's coming to us as a champion. And look, I reached out to the TSS Rovers to ask, what they could tell us about him, and people were really singing his praises, both on and off the field. Said he's a wand of a left foot, that he's not afraid to get in there and get up the pitch, that he's hardworking and really tries to improve as a player, and he just seems like a great guy all around. And when he posted his signing announcement on Instagram, he got a lot of likes and a lot of shout outs from some familiar names in the Canadian soccer world. So seems like a popular guy, both with that's an interesting addition, because with Colin Gander going back to school, we certainly needed to fill a spot there. They've signed him for 2022, so the balance of this season, with options for 23 and 24. So another that they obviously maybe see some long-term potential in. And yeah, hopefully he delivers on that potential.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see. Especially since we just had a couple of defenders on their way out for school, and I wish them well in both. Matteo Restrepo, who, I'm going to admit, I have said some doubtful things about over the season, but I kind of miss the guy already. And he chose and it's really good to see him choose his new profession at a time when medical professionals and when there's such a crisis largely, and the details of why I think of that crisis are well beyond the scope of this and would instantly quadruple the running length of this video. All right.
Thank the guy for taking the chance to go to one of the best medical schools in the country, and hopefully we see him back in Canada when he's done. So.
The Sinai, the Econ something or other, my Econ College of the Sinai University. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Econ, and it's linked to Mount Sinai Hospital, which is one of the better ones around.
Okay,
so,
thank you. All right, in New York. New York's especially got some important stuff there, so whether he comes back or whether he sticks around in New York to do his thing, it'll be helpful immensely. All right, De Rosario. Not that one.
Yeah.
Adisa De
it's
Rosario.
definitely a familiar name to anybody familiar with Canadian soccer. So obviously his father is something of a TFC legend, and his brother currently plays for York United for those following the CPL. So yeah, he turns 18 this year, so he's currently in under 18. He's in on these under 18 development permits, and so you have 23 roster spots, and then on top of that you can add up to four at a time of these under 18 players, and so he's taking one of the slots and not a primary roster spot. So he's sort of a third keeper of sorts now. He with TFC, so he came up through their academy. He was with TFC2 this year, which is their MLS Next Pro club, and that's a pretty comparable level to CPL. We've seen a lot of players move back and forth between Next Pro and CPL, and he didn't get much playing time with them though, so it was kind of
You there?
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, he was kind of on the roster, but not really getting any playing time, and so they've sent him to us. I don't, it's an intriguing one because I don't know. He wouldn't be an under 18 next year. He'd be an under 21. So I don't know whether the Wanderers are looking to bring him back in the future as a backup or an emergency backup keeper, or what sort of, whether he was just sent to get a bit more experience at this level. I can't say, but certainly kind of an intriguing signing, but probably more of one for the future.
Yeah, that checks out. I think I heard something from one of our folks who is really close to the club, saying that at the time it's clear that he needs some time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give the full statement he said. Seems because it may sound a little harsh to some, but it said that it'll take time. I mean, of course it will. He's 17 years old. In fact, I'm pleasantly surprised Basket at 20 years old has gotten up to the level where he is. And he's still got a long way to go. He isn't exactly Lev Yashin.
Yeah. Look, for the future, he was called up to the Canadian under-20 squad this year. Again, didn't see any playing time, but for a 17-year-old, that in and of itself is impressive. That he was part of that team, and so again, I think this is sort of something that has some long-term potential, and we'll see where it goes. And that's the whole point of these under-18 contracts, right? These aren't always players that are going to come in and make a huge impact right away. Well, the prospects that you're looking to develop. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing Darrow in action in years to come, like Basket, Russianus number 2, Darrow number 3. I'm not going to have a dig at Oxner. I've had more than enough of those already. What I am going to say is there are plenty of places where Oxner can be important, and none of them are Foot Locker. So let's not. And several of them are probably related to youth soccer Nova Scotia, something like that. Somewhere kids will look up to this guy, and fairly. Yeah, I really hope he finds something that'll benefit him and everyone else. That'd be great. Nuaja.
Team.
You there, man?
Sorry?
You sort of broke up, like you were about Tim Nuaja?
Yeah, Nassim Nuaja. So he is another under 18 development contract. He won't be under 18 next year, so he would move to a full contract next year if they want to keep him around. He's a product of the Montreal academy system, and he's a Tunisian dual national. So he grew up in Canada, but he's got Tunisian citizenship. And so he had spent the earlier part of this year pursuing some opportunities in Tunisia, and then as a player. From what I've heard from folks at the team, Matt Fegan said this in the press release, but I've heard this from other folks at the club as well, that they expect him to push for first team opportunities right away. And so I think they see him not just having good long-term potential, but good immediate potential. And so hopefully we are going to see him in the lineup soon and on the pitch soon, because League One, and that works well as well, because we got to get those under 21 minutes. So hopefully, somebody with a bit of long-term potential and maybe might make an immediate impact as well.
All right. So all right. And what's Nugent's position again? Is he like a?
Sorry, he's a center back. So he's coming in. We've added some nice depth at center back.
All right. So instead of midfield FC, we could end up being center back FC.
Seems like,
yeah. And I'm just glad that we have that, and we have somebody who can put the thing in the other thing.
Yeah.
We certainly didn't have much of that before.
No.
Degelman. Owen Degelman from Chemnitzer. Apparently a Canadian guy who had some stuff going on in Germany, and who's come back here.
Yeah, so Owen is another under-18 development contract. He, as you said, was with a club in Germany called Chemnitzer. They're a fourth-tier German side. He was playing with their under-17 team.
Regional Liga, right?
Sorry?
He's in Chemnitzer. That was in the Regional Liga, right? Or one of the regional
ligas. Yeah,
leagues.
So they got Bundesliga 1, 2, 3, and then the regional ligas are the fourth tier. So a fourth tier, under 17. He spent some time prior to that with Pacific FC's U21 program. I understand, so there's other CPL clubs that had an interest in him. He's 6'2", he's a striker. So again, another big body for the front. He will be an under 18 next year, unlike the other 18. So he would still be eligible for an under 18 development permit next year. I understand from what the club said when they signed him that that the plan is to send him back to Germany in the off season. And again, this looks like one for the future. This looks like a bit more of a project here, but one I think hopefully that has high potential if he's able to live up to that promise. And as a striker,
you were saying he's a striker that could.
Yeah, just he's a big body, and that's something we've lacked. We've got that now in AMLA, but if we're developing another one for a year or two down the road, I think that's a good thing. I mean, one of the challenges, and I think you and I discussed this online, there wasn't a lot of footage for any of these players coming in. So, when the club signs a player, I'm always interested. I try and go out and see what I can find out about them online. And, there's often highlight tapes available of them, so you can get a bit of sense of who they are as a player. For these 6 players, there wasn't much. And I think that from kind of pro academy or next pro level, and the reality is that doesn't get a lot of coverage or airtime in Canada. And so, just kind of underscore some of the challenges of scouting at this level. So, I mean, kudos to the scouting team for unearthing some of these players. In terms of having a look at them from our end, kind of had to look at what was written up about them online, and then, information I was able to glean from talking to people who've seen them train and who have seen them play. So a lot of it's kind of word of mouth at this point, but you said earlier that we've signed 7 players. Well, that in the last month and a half or so, and that's more than, or that's the same amount as we signed in the entirety of last off season, and 6 just in a 3-week period. So might be one of our busiest signings as a club. So it's been exciting.
That is notable. Tell you what else. Tell you what else. The another the and it and I'm glad Matt Fegan. I guess this explains why Matt Fegan's usual approach is to take a road trip to Quebec with various Acme traps and folding devices.
Like we were diversifying a little bit. Like these guys are coming from different parts of the country and different player pools, and it's not just all PLSQ signings. So it's good to see that maybe the feelers are networks wider, that the feelers are being cast out a little further, and we're starting to see some results from that. So yeah, again, kudos to the scouting department. It's always exciting to see new signing. Plate with you. I get the sense with a few of them that these signings have been in the works for quite a while. I think they mentioned that Campagna took a while to get in, and we should talk about him too. But
we will talk about him too.
And Derek Martin had sort of told us to expect 3 to 5 signings in the coming transfer window, and obviously they've exceeded that. But just based on kind of the hints that were out there, it sounds like a few of these deals maybe took a little longer to land than I've expected. But it's nice to see some fresh faces and some fresh
legs. Thank you a million for checking on all this stuff at a time when I was in no position whatsoever to do that, because I was zonked. I had blood work done and a whole bunch, and I just in order to prepare for a pre-afternoon fast, I had to do things to my sleep schedule that I may not have fully rectified yet. We'll see what happens. Chances are I'll regret it in the days to come. That says, all right, so let's get on to Campagna.
Christian, you're 21 this year. He won't be next year. He's another product of the Whitecaps Academy system, and he was actually a teammate in that system of Gabbo Escobar and Jake Ruby, who's already with the club. So he would have been the year behind Ruby and Escobar, and Polizzi would have been a few years ahead of them. So my understanding is all these guys know each other and have played, at least Escobar, Ruby, and Campagna have played together before. They've been teammates, so that's always nice when you can bring someone in and you're in the locker room. He was most recently playing with Whitecaps 2, which is their MLS Next Pro side, and he captained them in numerous games, so he seems to be considered a bit of a leader, I think, on and off the pitch. Just some of the write-ups on him from even earlier this season, it's clear that Whitecaps fans had pretty high hopes for this guy, that he might eventually kind of press on and break into the first team. So interesting, because they got Whitecaps to agree to terminate his contract early. So his contract with Whitecaps ran until the end of the season, and they were able to convince Whitecaps to terminate that early and agree to this transfer, which is an interesting move, and suggests that maybe he thinks he'll get some better experience in CPL. They've signed him through the 2023 season, so we now have 4 players that are under contract through 23. Club, and having a bit of a longer term with the club. Another fun fact: he's been a regular on Team Canada's practice squad during the World Cup qualifying campaign. So he's not a full squad member. He hasn't been called up or given any caps, but he was practicing with the team regularly. So although he's not a full national team member, this is a guy that has been training with some of the best that has to offer.
That is really nice. And
he's had to defend guys like Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies, so that's good experience, right?
I'd say that's good experience. I mean, Alphonso Davies is in Bayern Munich. Jonathan Davis is either Lille or Besiktas. Lille, right? and some other Canadian nationals are in Besiktas, including Atiba Hutchinson, who is as old as I am, and clearly and presumably in a lot better shape.
I'd say he's still got tremendous legs. So
I mean, there's this one Portuguese guy who's in his late 30s, and he's still doing things. Psoo!
Yep. So yeah, Christian Campagna, again, I don't think I mentioned he's a center back. So between him and Nuaja, like, it really seems like we've added both some quality and some depth at that position, which was needed, obviously.
Up front and in the back.
Yeah, with Restrepo leaving and going back to school, we needed to add some bodies there, and it seems like we've added some that have shown some real quality so far. So hopefully he slots right in, and we see him in a starting 11.
Yeah. Okay. So so it looks like I mean, I've already said many things about how likely we are to make the playoffs, and not at all. So this is really good next year, wandering toward the future kind of stuff, and we could be contenders. We'll see, of course. We'll only know that in April of next year and beyond. But what it looks like is we're going to be, well, the other teams are doing the same kind of things, and we're at least looking to be on par with them.
Yeah, the club's in an interesting position. So, it feels like for next season is starting to take shape a little earlier than it usually would. So we're already starting to see what the plan might be for next year. So, as I said, we've now got 4 players, which are Amla, Fumpa, Morelli, and Campagna, signed through 2023. Everybody other than Pierre Lemay, Corey Ben is on years. They have to bring back as many or as few players as they want, but these additions kind of set up some interesting dynamics. Like I said, we've added some folks at the center back position. We've now set ourselves up or the club set themselves up where they really have 3 left backs that are either under option or that we hold the rights to for next season. So between Escobar, Tabby, and then Gander, who's gone back to school,
right,
who we to season, you've got 3 left backs, really only 2 slots. So that maybe sets up a bit of competition for that position. And then a few players in the future and a couple of interesting new additions up front. Midfield's generally been one of our stronger points, so not surprised that we haven't made big changes there yet, but that's what the offseason is doing, right?
Right, and looking into the midfield and strengthening that even further will be important, because we saw what Forge did to that, like, both at home and away, and I think it could be important. Call the hunch.
We really struggled at home with them because of that high press, and that's a matter of needing players that can break through that high press. So you need to be able to get one of the ways. I think we've added a couple of weapons that potentially allow us to do that. So Mondway, with his directness, kind of forces teams to defend a little deeper, creates a little more space for their players, and then you've got guys like Amla coming in, who's a bit of a target man, and maybe you can get a long ball to him and break out from behind the press that way. So, those were tough losses. The team has learned some lessons from those losses. They've made some formation changes and some personnel changes, and we seem to be dealing more effectively with that type of thing now. So,
do you still think that Halifax Forge 1 was effectively sacrificed for the sake of the Can Champs?
I think when they set the match day roster, so there was a couple of people that were probably kind of rushed into the lineup for that Forge match that maybe shouldn't have been. And, you can completely understand why the club chose to prioritize that fixture. And hey, look, we came so close to, getting to penalties with TFC, which, given our record on penalties, that could easily have gone our way. So completely understand why the club had choice. But yeah, certainly, based on who was in the roster for the TFC match versus who was in the roster for the Forge match, I think we definitely prioritized the TFC match. So.
As for Halifax Forge 2, we were just shite. And I don't think there was really much else that could be said other than just being absolutely wieners.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot less time we needed to spend on Halifax Forge 2.
I'm kind of out of reach at this point, so the club's really got an opportunity between now and the end of the season to continue to try out different formations and combinations of players to give some of these new faces some playing time and see how they work out. Some of them, as I said, 4 players under contract and a whole raft of players under option for next year. So you've got a bunch that essentially audition for season. We got to give some of those guys, including some of the ones that have been with us since earlier in the season, like Ryan Robinson and Obeng Tabi, a chance to show a bit more of what they can do. And so, it should be interesting from here on out to see some of those new faces come in, see a bit more of some of the players who maybe haven't gotten as much playing time, and just look at the rest of the season as kind of an opportunity to grow and get better as a squad.
Of course. I have one more question before I call it quits, as this has become mainly more of a look at the future rather than just about the fresh guys. How much do you figure the increased transfer activity and the like? How much of it can you chalk up to plans that they had before finally coming into play after a bit of difficulty, and how much do you think was them being rushed into action after the six or bust thing turned out to be bust? I'm saying 90-10 in favor of plans that they were just having trouble with, and they finally figured out how to do something. Just because it was overdue doesn't mean it's not welcome.
Yeah, I think it was an unusual situation. All of a sudden we had 3 roster spots open in the main roster. These spots open since the start of the season for U18s, and two roster spots opened up because youth sports players went back to school, which might have been anticipated. One opened up because Restrepo decided to go to medical school, and that may not have been anticipated, and so it does seem like some of it was, just based on what Derek Martin and Matt Fegan had said leading up to this past transfer window. It seems like some of this was longer term plans that kind of happened to come to fruition at the same time. Like I said, I think the Campagna deal took a little longer to come together than they might have expected. I think some of the U18s they were working on for a while, but I think Matt Fegan had said, they needed to come up with appropriate billing arrangements for them and that sort of thing, and that took a bit more time. So it does seem like, some of it was coincidental, but a lot of it was really longer term plans suddenly coming to fruition in a pretty short window. So, but it, for getting time, I don't for the supporters expecting that many signings in such short order, and as I said, it was more even than Derek told us to expect. So that it was kind of a fun few weeks learning about all these fresh faces. So.
Sounds good. Well, anyhow, thank you very much, Derek Simon, Dartmouth Derek, one of the most ardent and loveliest fans that I have known. Every one of these Wanderers fans is amazing. I'd like to think I am too. I hope I'm right. But yeah, we got the best fan base in Canadian football, I think. And even there are plenty of people in other circles I've met who got me into it, and I've gone between thanking them for it and being ready. The next time I meet them, I'm going to pie one of them right in the face. As long as they're not allergic. It's not about that.
Thanks, Jordan. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's no problem, Derek. Thank you for everything. I guess I'll see you later. Up the wah.
Yeah. Come on, you Wanderers. Take care.
Word.